The moment I said I do, I never imagined that my entire world would fall apart just hours later. It was supposed to be the beginning of a new chapter in our lives, a chapter filled with love, happiness, and endless memories. But as the day went on, I started noticing small, strange things. At first, it was just little signatures just in case, the way he kept checking his phone during the reception, his nervous laughter. But then, after the wedding was over, I started to feel like I was in the middle of a nightmare. I thought I was overreacting, maybe just letting the stress of the day get to me, but deep down, something felt off. The man I had trusted with my heart, my future, was slipping away, and I didn't know why. We had been together for 5 years. We met in college, and everything about us seemed to be perfect. From our first date to late-night talks about our future, it felt like we were meant to be. He wasn't just my partner, was my best friend, my confidant. We shared dreams, secrets, and plans. It was as though we understood each other better than anyone else could. We talked about everything, our hopes for the future, the kids we wanted to have, the house we dreamed of. And when the time came to get married, there was no hesitation. We planned every detail of the wedding, from the color of the flowers to the playlist that would play as we danced for the first time as husband and wife. Everything felt right. The ceremony was breathtaking. I walked down the aisle, my heart racing with excitement, my mind filled with dreams of the future. The sun streamed through the windows, casting a golden glow on everyone who had gathered to celebrate with us. And there he was, standing at the altar, looking at me like I was the only person in the world. His smile, his gaze felt like a dream come true. As I said I do, I could feel the weight of the moment, the promise of forever. I never imagined what was about to happen next, what would shatter everything I had believed in. After the ceremony, everything seemed to be going perfectly. We danced, we laughed, we celebrated with our friends and family. But there was something I couldn't quite place. He seemed distracted, a little distant, as if his mind wasn't fully present. I brushed it off, thinking maybe he was just tired or overwhelmed by the day. We were thrilled to find out we were expecting our first child. The joy of seeing those two pink lines was unlike anything we had ever felt. In that moment, it was as if the world stood still. We were going to be parents. Our family was about to grow, and with it, our love. I'll never forget the way he looked at me, his eyes shining with excitement as we held the test in our hands. "We're going to be a family," he said, his voice filled with awe. The thought of raising a child together, of building a life for our little one, made everything feel so right. We shared the news with our families, the tears, the laughter, the hugs. Our parents were overjoyed, already planning how they'd spoil the baby. It felt like everything was falling into place, like nothing could go wrong. We were living a dream. I noticed him acting strange after the reception. He was distant, hardly making eye contact, and spending more time on his phone than with me. At first, I thought it was just the exhaustion of the day catching up to him. But then I started to feel something deeper, a sense that he was pulling away, as if I wasn't the most important thing in his world anymore. The anxiety was impossible to ignore. He couldn't sit still, his fingers tapping nervously on his glass or his phone, checking it again and again. Even when we were supposed to be celebrating, I brushed it off at first. Maybe he was just overwhelmed by everything going on. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. It wasn't until a few days later, when I had access to his phone, that everything came crashing down. A message popped up, casual, almost friendly. At first, I thought nothing of it, but then I saw the name. It wasn't just any name. It was the woman from his office, one I had always suspected something was off with. My stomach dropped. I couldn't breathe. My hands shook as I opened the conversation. I couldn't breathe. My heart felt like it was being ripped out of my chest, piece by piece. How could he do this to me? How could he betray me? On the one day we were supposed to start our new life together, I thought we were invincible, that nothing could tear us apart. But here it was, truth, raw and undeniable, and it felt like my world was crashing down around me. I kept reading the messages, hoping they weren't real, hoping this was some kind of mistake. But the more I read, the clearer it became. There was no denying it. He had been with her, not just once, but repeatedly, while we were planning our future, while we were sharing our most intimate dreams, while I was carrying our child. I confronted him that night, my voice shaking with anger and disbelief. "How could you do this to me? On our wedding day?" The words felt like they were ripping out of me, each one more painful than the last. I had trusted him with everything. I had given him my heart, my future, and he had shattered it in the worst possible way. He tried to apologize, to explain that it was a mistake, that he didn't mean to hurt me. but I couldn't hear it. Each word he spoke felt like another knife twisting deeper into my chest. His excuses were hollow, his words meaningless. The trust that had once held us together was gone, and no amount of remorse could ever bring it back. I left him that night. I couldn't stay with someone who had shattered everything I believed in. It was the hardest decision I've ever made, walking away from the person I had once trusted with my whole heart, my future. But deep down, I knew I deserved better. I deserved someone who valued me, someone who would never break my trust. The first few days were the hardest. I cried until I couldn't cry anymore. I felt lost, like a piece of me had been torn away, and the silence of the empty house felt suffocating. But in that silence, I began to find myself again.